I'm local here, our politics, and as people say, all politics is local, and nothing more local than Congress District 5 was Keith Ellison is leaving, running for Attorney General, and I think there's 5 people now running to fill his office. And our guest today, Les Lister, he is a journalist, an activist, and a member, and I think he worked with Operation Push. I think these people united to save humanity. My goodness, I think we need to save just District 5 now.
They started out save humanity, and then they want a big serve humanity. And I worked for them just a few months, actually.
Okay,
yes, but I was communication director.
Okay. But you've been watching them for a long time. Yeah. But you wrote a piece, spokesman, that you're not happy about how the Keith Ellison is handling, or the Democratic Party handling the nomination and all of this. We have 5 people, and I think half of the Somali community running for this office.
Yes.
So let's talk about what are the issues there that made you or kind of convince you that the Democratic Party is not a place for you, not a venue for you, and you went to the Green Party. Take us through about why you are running for District 5 and why you're not running as a Democrat, since you've been involved with the Democrats for all your life, I think.
That's right. I've been a Democrat all my life, but if one looks at the Democratic Party in general, Democrats are progressives, and progressives are different from conservatives in that if you're talking what needs to be done, that's the one progressives will vote for. I mean, if you think about Jesse Ventura, when he ran against Skip Humphrey and Norm Coleman, here is a Democrat on this side and Republican on this side, and Ventura won. And I have that same populace whom I'm able to take my ideas to, so I'm excited about this. Despite the difficulty and challenges, this is a great opportunity.
Also, Democratic Party has a dynamic now of its own. I mean, there is a fight within the Democratic Party. We have the progressive winger, the Ben Sander and Alexandria Cortez part, and we have the establishment, the Ayatollah of the Democratic Party, that they keep Sanders out of the, the presidential last time. So when we talk about the Democratic Party, we're not talking about one thing. And I think when you have 5 people running to fill Keith Ellison's position, what's another one? Why one? And you're talking about the fact they decided on the last day, so they prevent people like you from filing. What is that? What does that mean?
I think there needs to be a measure, and in fact, I'm talking with Green Party people now. Maybe we'll have a press conference this coming week. That it's just indefensible that a guy can, on the day of filing, do an about face. And you've got citizens out here who are qualified for the position, who can bring new blood into the Democratic Party. And we're left on the outside.
Well, Ilhan is fairly new.
What's the
Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan. And Ilhan, I mean, I think if Ilhan had really shown her moxie over the last 2 years, I could see why you could celebritize her. But I think people in the Twin Cities have proven that they're not prejudiced against Muslim people, okay? And so on a national level, I don't think that that's going to play now. What has she done over the last 2 years? We don't have time for her to go to Washington and learn within 2 years. I'm ready to go to Washington and hit the ground running.
Well, what's your experience?
Well, my experience, I grew up in Freedom Summer in Mississippi in the Yard when the Civil Rights Movement came along. I was there as a child. I wound up working at, again, I mentioned Jesse Jackson's Operation Push. I worked as a journalist for the Chicago Defender newspaper, which is an activist advocate newspaper. Johnson Publishing Company's radio station. So I've always been an advocate for the African American cause, and
on a national level.
And well, that was on some local levels. But my framework of thinking is whatever you know in the general, it applies to more whatever the particular details are. So if you understand the 360-degree range of something, it doesn't matter. It correlates nationally or locally.
We don't want to, present this as it's a conflict between Muslim and blacks, because your experience is with black issues and black, activism. Ilhan also has been active in both, blacks and Somali and Muslims. And do you think that resonates in the Twin Cities? You have a huge Somali community, huge Muslim community, and huge black community.
I love the Somalis. In fact, as far as Islam is concerned, I almost became a Muslim myself and lived in Chicago at 73rd Street in Jeffrey.
Don't do that.
Well, no, the mosque was right around the corner.
There we go. Proximity is a virtue.
Yeah, and so finally I wound up going over there, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, they have good food.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if people believe in the Creator God, I'm not going to, judge people about that. So I'm not against Islam at all.
No, I hope not. But what I'm saying, when you say filing on the last day, that's a cahooting between Keith Ellison and Omar.
It seems to me that,
that's a big.
He would have at least said a few months earlier that he wasn't going to run.
I see.
And so at the last minute, that meant that anybody who was in the proximity who could run would run. And so who was in the proximity? Ilhan Omar and Margaret Kelleher, and maybe those other three people.
So tell me what's the dynamic now. Now you are running with the Green Party, which is in a way liberates you from dealing with the politics of the Democratic Party. You don't have to adhere to their own, restrictive agenda, which usually you have to for the Democratic establishment. So that gives you more freedom to bring new ideas and go with it.
Right. I mean, I'm a progressive. Whatever is about making the society progress, that's what I'm about. And the Green Party has given me really full latitude to discuss whatever I feel that needs to be on the.
What are the main issues in District 5?
The main issues
that you're going to bring the other 5 or not?
The main issues that the primary one is narrowing the achievement gap. I've taught in Minneapolis public schools. And
you still do, don't you?
Well, I've been teaching in St. Paul schools over the last couple of years, but I'll be in the Minneapolis public schools when the fall comes around.
Yeah, teaching is teaching, okay.
Yeah.
So that qualify you to
deal with the achievement gap?
Bring things to the table, to District 5, okay, shrinking the gap, and?
Right, and the thing is, people have been talking about narrowing the achievement gap for years, but nobody's coming up with anything substantive. I want to be, on the day of the election, when I get to Washington in January, and I believe I can win, just as Jesse won, just as Lisa Murkowski won as a write-in candidate. She's a senator, just in 2010. So I can win. I've got that same populace that Jesse Ventura had. But nobody is addressing that the full history of black people has not been merged with world history. And so these black kids are getting popular culture. They're getting commercialism. They're getting popular culture.
The Hollywood version.
And that's the kind of lifestyle they're living. So we're saying, let's give them a more broad perspective. And so that's what I want to deal with on the Education Committee in Washington and be right there in Washington to address the Department of Education. And this is hopefully after Betsy DeVos is out of there, okay, in 2020.
Good luck with that. But don't you think Keith Ellison done it for the last 10 years?
Surprisingly.
The fact that he's there and people look at him as the role model and he's
surprisingly, he hasn't dealt with, I think, the put the rubber to the road as far as the black people's history has not been merged with world history. When the kids open up a textbook and they look at the Assyrians were black in 500 BC. When they look at the Egyptians are still white in the textbooks.
Jesus is white.
Didn't we say that in a couple other shows there?
But I'm talking about, we don't have to go 5,000.
The Hebrews are from that area.
If they can make Jesus white, they can make anybody white.
That's what
this is a major issue. It's not a District 5 issue. I know that District 5 has more eminent issue than this issue might take for years to deal about if blacks are represented in culture and history and all of this. This is a major issue that might take a while and may take more of national than. But District 5 has employment, has crime, has race. Those are eminent issue that we need to address.
District 5 mirrors practically every inner city in the nation. And this is why I'm saying, as a candidate, automatically by default, joblessness, inequality, as far as health care, all these by default are issues that, as a black man in America, I'm going to address anyway. And generally, I vote, whatever the Democrats vote, I generally vote that because I'm a progressive. So that's not going to change. But I'm not going to be a business as usual candidate. See, I'm going to address what they're addressing already.
I see.
I'm going to be willing to
push
work
a little bit to the left.
I'm willing to work with our legislators here in the Twin Cities. Okay, so I've got to be able to work with people. So I'm not going to be so far left that I can't work with people. In fact, I'm really more of a moderate type person. But it just so happens that I'm a part of the Green Party, which I think is great. I mean,
environment is a big
warming
issue.
And environment.
Yes. And we don't want moderate anymore. This is all status quo. We need somebody to shake that party and move them away from the center, which is really a Republican light. What's a Democratic?
Well,
we need to move a little bit and make, and also. You can see that a lot of people within the Democrats are looking for a candidate that who voted for a socialist in New York.
Well, I mean, I was, in fact, I was ready to vote for Bernie Sanders. In fact, when his telephone crew came, I was in the telephone room making calls for a couple of days. I couldn't hear in there, so I
got us excited.
And I left out of there.
Got excited and deliver us to Hillary. But let's talk about. And I think this is very interesting, the King Tut, the king, the Egyptian King Tut. And there was an exhibit here a few weeks right after the revolution in Egypt. And they brought him here to Science Museum, right?
That's right, that's right.
And I went there, I know you had a story too. I went there to visit. It's my king,
Yes, okay.
We love kings, not El-Sisi, but anyway, that deserved to be a king, and he was there, and I went to the exhibit, and I found out the picture of Mubarak, Susan.
President Mubarak, former president.
Yeah, the dictator that was just toppled a few weeks ago, a picture of his wife there. It's the biggest things you can see in the museum, and they say all the proceeding from this exhibit is going to go to her foundation.
Oh, to her, okay.
Which her foundation was under investigation and criminal and all that crony business. To cut this short, there was an issue between me and the media and the Egyptian community and Science Museum because they have no respect to what just happened. The biggest event in Egyptian history, in recent history, was the January 25th revolution. Now they have this again. To celebrate, Suzanne's Mubarak and her crony business with Dr. Hawass, which was her bodyguard.
Hawass, that's the antiquities.
Yeah, that's the guy, that's the dictator of antiquity. Nobody can talk about anything else as Hawass. He's just sitting playing backgammon now in a cafe somewhere. But anyway, what was your issue with King Tut? And I think you have some take on the way they presented them.
As I've said on your show before, I mean, the Arab community arrived in Egypt in 640 AD. And in 1300 BC, Egyptians were chocolate people, You're saying, and that was when I was there a few years ago. You've got families like you mentioned earlier. You've got guys who look like you, and then your brother is my color,
Dark,
And why would America... knowing people have traveled to Egypt, these are educated people, why would they do television shows with King Tut as white, or even the Ten Commandments movie with the Egyptians as white, and then the museum exhibit to bring it into town and say it's going to be an educational deal, and it was never mentioned that he was a black man. But we're always saying things negative if black folks do something negative. Oh, it's on the news.
Yeah.
Why not say a black pharaohs
okay.
coming
Some
to town.
positive stories.
Some positive, yes.
Even if it was a King Tut.
Yeah, just even if it was a picture, even
Yeah.
though it was a few thousand years ago.
Yes.
But I mean, that helps people's cognitive map.
Did
when
you
they
contact
understand
the
history.
Science Museum at the time?
Good point. In fact, I was communications chair at the local NAACP.
Yeah.
And we wrote an open letter to the media, to the museum, and museum people did respond back. They had all kinds of excuses. My thing was,
They have lawyers.
I wrote the letter. You know, they teamed up with me, but I wrote the letter, and I said, why not get the billboard and show King Tut and his wife Aka Hassanama as they look?
Exactly.
What's wrong with that?
real
What's
history.
wrong with why hasn't King Tut ever been on the cover of a history book?
Because the suburb kids are not going to visit that.
Well, I don't agree. Teenagers love black culture. If you think about it,
Yeah.
Teenagers, to them, being black is hip.
Yeah.
When I was 18, 19, and 20, and my white friends in Chicago,
Yeah.
we'd be walking and say, man, I feel like the
But they
Mod
cannot-
Squad when I'm with you.
This is a problem with white kids. They cannot be as cool as black kids.
They feel it.
So let's do that. But I think, why do you think that oversight of? I mean, you would think the people who are running that exhibit, they know history, and why did they can play with this pop culture in a place? This is not a theater or a Hollywood film. This is Science Museum. This is the real history.
It's-
the depository.
It's more insidious than naive, gullible people realize.
You think there's something
It's
there.
insidious. Now, they had the big OmniMax theater where they had Ramses. They had all these pharaohs, and you're watching.
Yeah.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
But everybody was Caucasian. These were black folks.
When did that happen?
Well, no, when they had the exhibit.
No,
well,
I mean, how did they become Caucasian? This is
oh,
even
yeah, good
before
point.
Caucasian.
That's right. That's right. I would say, back in the 1700s, a guy wrote a book. I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name right now. But he went to Egypt, did the research, and said, these are black folks. I don't know if after the Moors had been dominant maybe 800 years, in Europe, man.
Yeah, 1,000 years or so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, so that just lends itself to the fact whoever has the power has a narrative.
Yes, that's
and
right.
history is written by assassins, as they say. Well, good luck with your venture. Good luck with your position. Wish you luck. And Les Lester running for District 5 on a platform that, Green Party and environment and, narrow the education gap should be on the table, and he should have a chance to offer different issue and different view than what the Democratic Party is offering. And we wish him well, and we wish other candidates, if they are willing to come on our show and tell their own version of the story. See you next week. Assalamu alaikum, and God bless you all.